people should know by now that ghosting and rejecting me when I did everything right and morally is only going to get them the same treatment. Did you honestly think that you ghosters that rejected me the first time round are going to worm your way back into my life as though nothing happened? Wrong. Yet again. What, did you honestly think that I didn't know what you ghosters are actually, in fact, are spiritually? You're a bunch of empty meat suits, for one, and you're a bunch of demons. Now, are all ghosters who so happen to reject cut from the same cloth? Absolutely not. I believe that there are genuinely good-hearted and good-minded people within today's atmosphere that so happen to ghost and reject too, all because they have attracted toxic person after toxic person after toxic person after toxic person their entire life. And at some point, they're going to grow sick and tired of the bullshit within people, and they're going to pretty much ghost and reject a whole lot harder than what people do with us type. Ghosting and rejecting also has its benefits, because when one said person so happens to ghost and reject, that's also God's upper hand and his protection. When people ghost and reject a lot of the time, it could mean 101 different things. The main one being that they think they can do better and find better within another person. And I'm not necessarily referring to relationship or marriage connections here either. I'm referring to friendships also. They think wholeheartedly that they could find and do better within other people. Alright then, crack on. If you could do better and find better, don't always come crawling back crying for your golden ticket when you begin to realise that, each and every one of you are trapped and enslaved within a matrix that's built on nothing more than an illusion. This is why I don't follow the narrative like the vast majority of everybody else. Oh, I want hundreds of friends. I want these girlfriends. I want these friends over here, and I want everything. Oh, that's a potential match in someone. This is a potential match in someone. It's the same with those that get overly excited when they see somebody new. It's like, ugh. Who are you trying to fool? I see through all of the bullshit. It does not interest me in the slightest. And this is why I'm thankful that I'm ghosted and rejected a lot of the time, because it also teaches me how to treat those the same exact way, but with more brute force behind it, up to the point where they're guaranteed to get extremely butthurt later on down the line, as well as sick and tired of their own bullshit. But here's the thing, even when they do get sick and tired of their own bullshit, they ain't winning their way back into my life for a piece of the pie. Nope. Go and fuck yourselves. Don't have time for the fuckery in people, man. And people are going to learn that fast. And they're going to learn it well. That I don't have time for fuckery within people. And I sure as hell don't have the time of day for selfish, self-absorbed, narcissistic people to worm their way back into my life after throwing me under the bus, thinking that they're entitled to a piece of the pie. So, let me get this straight. You throw me under the bus, and after you throw me under the bus, you move on to the next sucker, thinking that you could find and do better with within somebody else, right? And now you have the brass neck, along with the audacity even, to crawl into my life, to try and woo your way back into my life, as though nothing happened. Are you mad? Clearly you're deluded and in denial. What's said and done is said and done. I don't have time for leeches, man, that feel the need to continuously and ruthlessly take without even contributing anything to our life. You're a bunch of dizzy bitches, mate. You're a bunch of dizzy bitches. And each and every one of you deserve not only a rude awakening, but a taste of your own, when God so happens to unleash hell upon the very heads of those that feel the need to do what they do upon us, thinking that one, they are living a much better life, and two, they are above us, when little did they know, one, they are living outside of the Old Testament, two, they are living outside of the New Testament. Correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't that make them an enemy of God? Doesn't that make them abominable unto the Lord thy God? I think you find it does. And these people are trapped and enslaved within their own spiritual chains. See, the funny thing about this is we can continue to grow and evolve, as well as age like a fine wine and heal within the process. These very said people that did what they did, they never will. Because when they hear the truth, and when they hear a realist clap back in self-defense in order to protect their own peace of mind and peace of heart, and I lost trail of thought. Clearly I'm being stalked again in some way or another. But the point I'm trying to make here is, when you begin to understand human psychology better than people can ever understand themselves, you just want to grow distant from people all the more, you know, because you see through pretty much the fakery and the fuckery within people, even behind the face nice and the face good, spiritual masks of excessive happiness and excessive joy a lot of the time. What did you honestly think that these fake masks that people put on are actually in fact going to conceal the bad deeds that you inflicted upon my life? I don't think so. And you're in for one rude awakening when reality hits you. That goes for anyone, you know, that think they're getting away with their degeneracy within life. Because let me tell you now, I don't care who you are or how smart you think you are, you're not getting away with jack shit. And the truth is going to hit you like a freight train. And when it does, you're going to have no choice but to get on your hands and knees and pray unto God the Father, while spiritually waving that white flag in surrender even, you know. Been there in the past as well. It's really uncomfortable when people face these times. But trust me, when you spiritually wave that white flag, it's the best decision you ever made. Because from that moment on, God's in control. No matter the outcome, God is always in control. Even through tests, trials, tribulations, storms, and only God knows what else. You know, he's in control of pretty much everything. And when you give him, that authority, all of that pain that people harbour onto sooner or later becomes lighter, and they begin to realise that there's not one single person within this world. I kind of take that back and retract my statement. Out of the 90% up to 95%, and if you're going to add the 1% as well as 2% on top of the 90% and 95% being the hidden chameleons that they are, if you were to add them as well, 91% and 97% of people aren't actually in fact who they claim to be. And this is why I now dissect the approaches that people wear. I don't go on their measly words. I mean, I don't care who you are, a man or a woman. You could spout 1,001 words, right? If I know deep down there's no truth to anything that you're saying, right? And my discernment, my spiritual discernment was telling me that you're a fraud, then I'm going to walk away, regardless. Because like I said, we live in a world today where the vast majority of people, they have their heads so far shoved up their own arse that, they can't even smell their own coffee beans even brewing in the morning, that is. And this is why I'm now learning to go even further within human psychology when it involves picking up on human behaviours, body languages, facial expressions. And this is why I go on actions rather than words through people. 101,000 words could actually, in fact, paint a fraudulent picture of a person that they're trying to sell onto you, that is. In other words, they're trying to sell said person in the attempt to convince you that they have something favourable that you might be interested in, right? But little did they know, their actions suggest complete indifference to what they are saying. In other words, their actions don't align with the person that they're trying to sell. Now, if people were to actually go on actions rather than words, they would actually, in fact, win in life, because they've lapped 99.9% of people. Because 99.9%, excluding the 1, 2, no more than 3%, that is, that so happen to be switched on, this intellectually, is a completely different ball game. They might have to work their way up to that, but the point I'm trying to make is, many people don't have these gifts and abilities, because they're trapped and enslaved within a world that was actually created for them through the opinions, validations, and attention, approvals through people. In other words, their life was created through said people. In other words, they didn't create the life that they wanted to live by manifesting it naturally, by slowing their heart rate down, residing within their own mind and their own heart. In other words, they are going within in order to find out their real identities and who they really are. Because this is what not many people understand. The world are trying to mould God's creation into becoming a said person or version of themselves that doesn't even exist, because it's nothing more than an illusion. Now, when people have the brass neck and the balls of steel to go within their own heart and their own mind in order to find out who they truly are, thus shutting out all external factors, switching off from all external projections of other people, trying to either rewire your mind or compromise you in any way, shape or form for their own sick gratification. If you can switch off from all of that, go inside of your own heart and your own mind, you'll begin to see a version of yourself that no amount of peer pressure could actually convince you into buying in. In other words, the creation of who we really are is already paid for under the blood of Christ. And this is what many people don't understand, because they're so trapped and enslaved within this world today that it's not even remotely funny. And a lot of people think, that they can put on these false images and do whatever they can in order to wear said false images, and then develop the audacity to come up to me a lot of the time and pass off said, personalities, as you will, that I know aren't truthful to some degree, because like I said, their actions don't align with what they're trying to sell. When it comes down to connection, human connection. And if people can go inside of their own heart and their own mind and eradicate all fear, along with past childhood traumatic experiences, codependent attachment disorders, nightmares, or whatever it is that we went through at a young age, we begin to crucify that said version of ourselves. And before you know it, when you're able to control your own mind and your own heart, you can create a version of yourself that is quite literally, like I said, hundreds, if not thousands of years of age, but yet mature, with a high level of intellect, along with emotional maturity and intelligence. I believe, if a person can actually control their emotions rather than live within an imbalanced mindset, once again, you've already lapped 99.9% of people. I get it, talking from past experiences. I went down that road. In other words, life was too much, because you're experiencing a rude awakening, like I said. In other words, all fabrications of who you thought existed are actually in fact being pried away from your very hands, and they're being torn apart. And throughout this entire awakening, you begin to realise that all of the ideas that you had about yourself, through the opinions, false validations, approvals, along with ideas through other people, they were nothing more than illusions. These said versions of yourself that you convince yourself actually in fact exist. They're nothing more than illusions. And this is why so many people are trapped and enslaved to the Matrix. Because they've fallen victim to the bullshit fantasies that people try to sell in the first place through their false perceptions and false personalities that they try to wear, like a badge of honor. And this is why I'm now teaching people to go on actions rather than words. If a person's actions doesn't align with the way that they speak and present themselves, cut them off immediately. Because you know that they're a wolf in sheep's clothing. In other words, if you have a high level of intellect and you can pretty much talk until the cows come home, but yet the very actions of said person don't align with who they're trying to claim to be, you know that there's actually in fact no truth to what they're trying to sell. And this is why when I'm out within public, I see through everything. I would know almost immediately whether someone was real or not. Because one, they're putting in the work in here and in here. Two, they're applying the biblical manuscript to their life. Three, they're making the relevant sacrifices in order to grow and evolve, as well as age like a fine wine. Four, if I've not already said three, that is, they are actually in fact obedient to the very presence of the Lord, thus meaning welcoming and accepting one's presence along one's travels. And if there's one thing that I admire within a person, it's fear. Worldly fear? No, that's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to a God-fearing person. A God-fearing person is actually in fact worthy of all praise. It's not only biblically scriptured, but it was also evidently recorded within the Bible 6,000 years ago, before the Great Flood. As a matter of fact, before the first Bible was ever created. Because if you think about it, people, the Gospel, before it made itself into a book, was actually in fact found on slate. That was the very first finding of the Gospel word, 6,000 years ago. It was found on slate rock, I believe it was. And they managed to take that translation from the slate rock and imprint it within thousands upon thousands of books later on down the line. And if you have the spiritual discernment to discern what Bibles talk complete and utter shit by sugarcoating the real word of God, as well as throwing in man's own vain philosophies, as you will, in comparison to the real gospel word, once again, you've already proved unto God the Father that you're worthy of all praise. Because you're not lost, like the vast majority of people. Because you're able to think for yourself and live for yourself. And that right there is admirable. It's not only admirable, but it is also worthy of all fruits, blessings and rewards spiritually, that is, later on down the line.